Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell for Distraction. Today I'm joined by one of our favorites, Jessica McCabe from How to ADHD. And we're bringing you a special episode sponsored by Landmark College in Putney, Vermont, the college of choice for students who learn differently. Thanks a lot for joining me, Jessica.
I'm so happy to be here. It's nice talking to you again.
Well, good. I think we'll be talking often in the months to come, so tell me what we're talking about today.
Okay, so today I wanted to talk about study skills and test tips specifically for college students because so much of college is just about like cramming for tests. I honestly don't remember much else from when I was in college. And honestly, the way that I used to study was, I know now about the most ineffective way you could possibly study, which is remember the night before the test that you have a test tomorrow, stay up late cramming for that test by reading the entire chapter. So what we know now is that cramming and like the intensity of how you study and like for how long you study is not actually what's all that helpful.
Yes.
So what you need to do is space out your study sessions, basically. So waiting till the night before the test and then not getting enough sleep. Not getting enough sleep the night before a test is actually going to make you do worse on the test than, getting those, than not studying for those few extra hours. So now we know, like, definitely sleep the night before the test, which is going to be, news to probably a lot of college students, like pulling all-nighters, save those for the essays. Like, yes, I have ADHD too. Like, I get it. Sometimes you wait till the last minute to do things. But if it's, for studying, like, definitely get that sleep. And you definitely want to start studying well ahead of time because the way that your brain works is every time you put information into your brain kind of has to consolidate that information so that it stores it in long-term memory in a way that you can later retrieve it. And the more times you do that, the better chance you'll have that you'll actually be able to remember that information on the test. So if you only do that once for a 3-hour session, your brain doesn't have enough time to consolidate that memory. So it's not going to be a very strong memory. So if you're going to spend 3 hours studying, great, but, do it, like 2 to 3 weeks out from the test. Start with, 15 to 45 minute chunks of studying. And as you get closer to the test, do things like pop quizzes, because then you get to practice retrieving that information. And so when you get to the test, it won't be as scary.
What else? What other suggestions do you have?
So another big thing is the way that you study, right? So the more actively you can engage with the material, the better. So again, reading the chapter is not a super effective way to study. It can be great if you know that you're going to go into a lecture on a certain chapter to read that chapter ahead of time so that your brain is already familiar with the material and what the teacher is saying during that lecture makes sense to your brain. But as far as studying goes, it's actually best to study the same material over and over again. Chances are you're not going to have time to study an entire chapter, and you probably don't need to memorize the whole thing anyway. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do is to study from your notes. If the teacher provides a study guide for that class, you can create a pop quiz out of that and study that. Or you can even create a cheat card for yourself. So like, I had a teacher once that was like amazingly cool and let us take an index card in with us to the test. Mm-hmm. So on that index card, I had the chance to write down everything I thought I could possibly need to know for that test, mm-hmm. which was really cool. Most teachers aren't going to let you do that. But if you still do that cheat card for yourself, what you end up having at the end of creating that cheat card is one 3x5 card on which all the most important information is contained. And so you can carry that with you and just whenever you get a chance, I mean, honestly, take a picture of it with your phone. Whenever you get a chance, just review that same material, maybe every night before bed if it's a super important test coming up, and you'll really have that information down by the time you get to the test.
So you're sort of boiling down to the bare essentials, all the bullets of the course. I should add, this is the kind of thing you'd learn at Landmark College, our wonderful sponsor in Putney, Vermont. This is what they specialize in, just as Jessica McCabe specializes in. Do you have any other wonderful tips on study skills for our listeners?
Yeah, so one other thing is, in terms of once you get to the test, a lot of places, I'm probably like Landmark College, but other colleges as well, you can get special accommodations for the way that your brain needs to learn. So you can get extra time on a test if that's something you need. If you have dyslexia, you can maybe ask for an oral test. definitely look into accommodations if you have any sort of learning differences. And then once you actually take the test, there are some things you can do as well. So it's not just about how you study. It's also about what you do, the night before the test and during the test and even after the test that will help you do well. So the day before the test, you want to give yourself a practice quiz. You can make that practice quiz based off of a study guide, or if you have the opportunity to, ask the teacher for past exams. The more you practice retrieving that information, the better. You can do flashcards, that kind of thing, but you really want to test yourself because you want to see not only do I have this information in my brain and can I retrieve it, but also the actual process of practicing retrieving it makes you learn the information better. You're basically pulling that information out of your long-term memory back into your short-term memory, putting it back into your long-term memory. And every time you do that, you strengthen that memory. Your brain is making those neural connections even stronger. So really practicing that is important.
So the idea of creating a quiz for yourself is another good way of preparing.
Yeah, or, test each other. Having a study buddy is obviously a great idea, especially for those of us who have a hard time, getting and staying engaged with study material. Another really important thing is to manage distractions while you're studying and during the test as well. If you've got a lot of things going on, if you keep checking your phone, that kind of thing, it's just going to make it harder. So there's an app that I like to use while I'm doing my research for the show, which is called Forest, Forest. And what it is you grow a tree in your phone as long as you don't touch the phone. So you can say like, hey, for 15 minutes, I'm not going to touch my phone. I'm going to go study. That tree will grow as long as you're not touching your phone. If you try to go check your messages or go on Facebook just kind of automatically, because that happens, like it's a habit at this point for most college students, your phone will remind you, hey, like go back to Forest or your tree will die. So if you don't want your tree to die, you actually have to not touch your phone, which I find really helps me stay focused, stay on track.
It's no secret that we've all been through very challenging times recently, and the frustration of changes in our daily lives for almost everybody. When you need help to cope with the day-to-day, it's important to reach out to the professionals at BetterHelp, who will personally work with you to get back on track, achieving your goals, and bring back that daily fulfillment you so richly deserve. BetterHelp, a Distraction podcast sponsor, will help you on the road to regain confidence, satisfaction, and fulfillment in your everyday life. The professionals at BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist who will give you the help you need to get back on track. They're convenient, affordable, and anything you share is always confidential. As a Distraction podcast listener, save 10%. Just go to our sponsor, BetterHelp, at betterhelp.com/distraction. BetterHelp is there to help you when you need it most. Again, save 10% and go to betterhelp.com/distraction and get back on track with BetterHelp.
So yeah, dealing with distractions. The night before the test, definitely sleep. The morning of the test, eat. Make sure if you take your meds or supplements, like take those. Move, because that'll help your brain as well. And then a big thing is right before the test, you want to manage test anxiety. Test anxiety can be huge for people with ADHD and learning differences because a lot of times we've not done well in the past. And so we're afraid we're not going to do well again, or we're afraid of the unknown. So you can meditate before the test, just, take some deep breaths, give yourself a pep talk, like put on your favorite hat. I mean, whatever helps you get calm and confident. But another thing that can help is if you're still feeling stressed out, just do a brain dump, like write down everything that you're stressed out about. Like take 5 or 10 minutes, write out what you're stressed out about. There was a study that they talked about on Crash Course, which is a great YouTube channel. They did a whole series on study skills. And this is a great technique. There's a University of Chicago study that came out saying that students who did this before a test, who just like wrote out their anxiety before a test, did an average of almost a full grade point higher on that test than the control group. So this can make a huge difference because just like when we make a to-do list, we're taking everything out of our brain that our brain keeps reminding us that we have to do, and we're putting it on a piece of paper so that we don't stress out about it. We can do the same with anxiety. Once you put it down on a piece of paper, your brain is like, oh, okay, cool. I don't have to keep reminding you that this is a really important test. And if you fail, it's going to be the worst thing in the world. And, all these things that our brain might try and remind us of during the test, it's not super helpful. It's going to be distracting. It's going to stress us out. And we're not going to do as well if we're holding that anxiety in our head. So if we give it a safe place to rest, that can be really helpful. And then probably most importantly is to approach the test as it's not the be all end all of the world. It's not like, okay, your final destiny will depend on this one test. Even if it's a big part of your grade, it's just one test. If it's not your final, it's actually great practice for the final test. And again, every time you have to retrieve information, especially in a high pressure situation, your brain learns that information better. So if it's not the final, it is really just practice. It's good for you to know. If it is the final, you want to start practicing or preparing a little bit farther in advance, but it's still not the end of the world. You fail classes, you move on. What's really important though to understand is you probably are not going to have just one more test or just one more class ever in your life. So going into it as kind of an experimental process can be really helpful. Okay, I'm going to try this method of studying. I'm going to set up my study schedule. I'm going to try studying the same material 15 minutes before bed every night for 2 weeks. Then the last night I'm going to do take a pop quiz that I made for myself the night before, right? So you try that, and then you go in and you do the test. And what you're trying to find out is, did that work? Did that method work for me? So after the test, give yourself a break, go take a nap, watch a movie, or, give yourself some sort of reward for doing the test. And then after that, whenever you're feeling up to it, write out what worked and what didn't. When you get the test back, maybe go through that test and be like, okay, where did I get caught up? Did I make a bunch of silly mistakes? Did I not understand a concept? Did I not spend enough time studying, or did I study the wrong material? Did I just not read the directions thoroughly? Then you can know how to do it better in the future. You can maybe go through the test and highlight the instructions so that it forces you to slow down and read it and really see those instructions if you keep making those kinds of mistakes or whatever. But the whole point is figure out what works for you, learn from how this test went, and it'll help you do better on the next one.
So sort of use yourself as your own research subject to try and figure out what works best for you, because one size does not fit all.
Yeah, exactly. And for me personally, I think it's helpful to go into a situation with that kind of mentality, because then it's not about, I have to do well on this test. It's about, oh, I have to figure out if the way that I prepared for this test worked for me.
How about one of the big ones for those of us who have these interesting minds, procrastination? Any tips on that one?
Relationships take work. A lot of us will drop anything to go help someone we care about and treat them well. But how often do we give ourselves the same treatment? This month, our sponsor, BetterHelp Online Therapy, wants to remind you to take care of your most important relationship, the one you have with yourself. BetterHelp Online Therapy offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. BetterHelp is easy, affordable, and it can be life-changing. You can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Distraction Podcast listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/distraction. Don't wait. Change things for the better. Go to BetterHelp.com/distraction now. You'll be glad you did.
Yes. One of the reasons we procrastinate is because things don't even land on our radar until they're about to happen. So most people would be a week out from a test, oh, I have a test coming up. I should probably prepare for that. It might not land on our plate until literally the night before. So I think the key is, as soon as you know there's going to be a test, or as soon as you think there's going to be a test, set up your study schedule then. So for most of us, the cue for study is, oh, shoot, I'm about to have to go take a test, right? But the cue should be, I just got home from soccer practice, and I decided every time I get home from soccer practice, I'm going to do a little bit of studying. However you set up your study schedule, you definitely want to do that and space it out. And again, you want to write an essay the night before it's due, go for it. Like, I've absolutely been there. And sometimes, honestly, my brain works better when I do it that way. But for studying, it just does not work that way. Your brain needs time to consolidate those memories. And a lot of that happens while you sleep. So sleep is like a study session you don't have to be there for. So if you study for 3 hours the night before a test and then sleep, you've only had 2 study sessions. But if you study, for a week out, even just a week before the test, you have now had, every day that week, like let's say 6 days of studying, and then also 6 nights that you've slept. So you've had 12 study sessions. So it's just way more effective to do it that way.
That makes a lot of sense. You're really terrific at this, Jessica. We're going to be seeing you again next month for another special episode sponsored by Landmark College. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Learn more from Jessica on her website, howtoadhd.com.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
At Landmark College in Putney, Vermont, learning doesn't stop in the classroom. Their 360-degree support system allows students to learn independence in a controlled environment and develop skills and learning techniques that will help students succeed on their own. I know this for a fact. I've seen many kids who've gone through their program. It's really terrific. Learn more at lcdistraction.org. Thanks a lot for joining us on this special episode. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell for Distraction.
The episode you just heard was made possible by our sponsor, Landmark College, the college for students who learn differently, offering comprehensive supports for students with ADHD and other learning differences, both on campus and online. Learn more at lcdistraction.org.